This is Brent of the Brookbush Institute, and in this video we're going to go over vibration or percussive release for the muscles of the arm. I'm going to have my friend Mike come out. He's going to help me demonstrate. Now we're going to start off with the middle deltoid. The middle deltoid has a propensity to develop some trigger points. I'm going to have you lay on your side facing away from me, Mike. So we'll start in this position so that I can keep the weight of the machine doing most of the work and I can keep good body mechanics. Just like all of the other techniques we've done with this hypervolt, I'm going to start on a slightly higher setting, that being setting 2 with a little larger surface area piece. This is the flat round piece. You could also use that foam ball. And I'm just going to go ahead and trace all of the middle deltoid here. I'm just basically using the weight of the tool, noting any increase in tissue density. How does that feel, Mike?
That feels great.
Feels good. There we go. So remember, we're always doing these techniques with the idea that we're going to get an increase in some objective measure. For example, maybe Mike has some upper body dysfunction. Maybe has a restriction in external rotation. Maybe he's positive for some of those shoulder impingement tests. All right. We could also do the tricep. Let me have you go ahead and lay face down. Now, admittedly, the triceps and biceps are not usually muscles I go after. They don't play large roles in postural dysfunction, but you can develop trigger points in these muscles, and it is nice to at least have them in your back pocket as potential treatment options if you have somebody who, for whatever reason, is giving you a lot of trouble getting over elbow dysfunction or shoulder dysfunction. Remember, the long head of your tricep does cross your shoulder. All right, so I can go through here. And again, I'm just tracing all through the tissue, noting any changes in tissue density. Of course, if I did notice a change in tissue density, I'd go ahead, go to a smaller surface area tip here. So this is the bullet attachment, and then I could come back on a lower setting so that I can get a little deeper on that place where I felt a little increase in tissue density. Remember where you're at. This is the back of the arm. There's not a whole lot of muscle between the humerus and this tool, so there's no need to like press down real hard. You'll hit bone and that's not going to feel very good. It's just a little bit and then a little bit in there. How's that feel, Mike?
I like it.
Good. All right, and of course, if I had felt any tissue density here, I could have done the same, going back and just very slowly letting the denser portions melt under the smallest surface area tool at a lower setting. Last, we'll do bicep and extensor mass. Let me have you flip over on your back, Mike. Now, I do note that I'm doing different arms. Keep note of which arm that you were actually working on. I'm only staying on one side for the sake of the camera and teaching you guys these techniques. But again, I'll switch to the larger flat round piece, go back up to a higher setting because I'm just going to go through all the tissue here. I'll just go through the bicep. So from anterior delt all the way down to elbow. Like I said, pretty uncommon to find trigger points or dysfunction here, but nice to have in your toolbox. Having absolutely nothing to do with assessment, I can tell you if you're sore from a hard workout, this does feel good. All right, and I didn't feel any increase in tissue density there. So let's go to extensor mass. Now here are some muscles that have a propensity to get overactive, develop some pretty significant trigger points, and are definitely related to both elbow and wrist dysfunction with things like epicondylitis. And if you have anybody who has like wrist flexibility issues, I almost guarantee that some soft tissue work here will definitely be helpful. Again, we're just going to be very careful going through all of the tissue. Notice any place that's a little bit more dense, like right in here for him. Notice, guys, I'm staying very much on the top half of the arm. Down here, although these muscles extend the fingers, the muscle mass is essentially here and all this is tendon. I would try to stay away from this type of area because, again, you're just going to end up grinding down into bone, and that doesn't feel good with these techniques. If I wanted to release some of the deeper muscles in the lower portion of his forearm, I would probably have to do that manually. So again, we had mentioned that there was a little bit of density here. Go ahead and turn this off. Switch back to the bullet piece. Lower setting. All right, so that's setting 1. And I'm going to go ahead and just focus on that area and let the tissue melt underneath the tool as I very slowly work my way through that acute point of dense tissue. All right, so just a recap of positions. Notice for the shoulder, I had Mike lay on his side, facing away, and then I just kind of had him put his hand on his stomach, so now his arm's nice and stable, right? So I can now address all of this tissue and he's not wiggling around. For tricep, it's probably easiest to be face down, right? And then you can go ahead and lay face down for me. With face down and palms down, all right? Now all this is nice and stable again. I can get through all the tissue. If we wanted to get to the inside of his tricep, we could then go ahead and go palms up. Notice he's still very stabilized by the table, making it a lot easier, especially if we have to get into some of those trigger points, get a little deeper with the smaller surface area point. Go ahead and flip all the way over for me, Mike. Last we went over bicep, right? And I used the larger tool at first to go through all of this tissue. And then, of course, with his arm being nice and stable, palm down, if I needed to get at a trigger point, I could, without having to worry about his arm flopping all over the place and not being able to get a nice, consistent amount of pressure. You know, with all release techniques, it's very helpful to, A, have the person in a position where the muscle is totally passive, and then B, have the person in a position that is very stable so that you can keep very consistent pressure, hoping to aid that process that's going to lead us to autogenic inhibition, and we don't get like a lot of stretching, which might, of course, lead to muscle spindle activity and an increase in tonicity. If you guys have any further questions about using percussive or vibration release for the arm, please leave them in the comments sections below. I look forward to hearing from you.